Hello everybody, my name is Luke Stapley, Marketing Director here at Cocos, and I want to introduce you to another great tutorial that we have for Cocos Creator. This one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be talking a little bit about map view. And what this does is, while you can see here in the demo that I'll be showing off, you can actually go ahead and you can actually increase and decrease the image and what it looks like. You can also go ahead and you can move the map around, and you can make it so you move all the way to the left or move all the way to the right, but you can't move past the end of the map. You can also see that we have it in sort of like a window so that you can actually look into the window. And this is really important because we're going to talk about inlaying and overlaying. And so we're going to be talking about a lot of different things that we've had a lot of developers talking about. So to start off, let's go back here to Cocos dashboard, and I'm going to go ahead and start a project name. And so I'm going to go ahead and add a new one. And as you can see here, we have three different types. You can see here I have an editor version. I could go with 3.01, or I'm going to go ahead and go with 3.1.1. Okay? So with 3.1.1, I'm going to go ahead and I have a hello world, or I have a taxi game. I'm going to go ahead and choose the empty one. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to name the project. I want to call this map view, if I can write it correctly, and I'm going to put it in my Cocos project section. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create it, and it's going to take a while. And as it takes a while, you're going to go ahead and see that I already have a final version of it, and I'm going to go ahead and copy a couple of items from it, especially the coding and also some of the images that I have inside of it. So don't worry, this is also available for you. We'll be putting this up in the description, so if you click on the descriptions, you'll actually get to read, and it'll have a download all the files here, so you can actually see what a final version looks like and work from that, because I'm not going to be able to share everything about this project. And if you want to learn more about the coding behind it, we'll give you a lot of opportunities to look at the code and see exactly how everything worked. So anyway, we have ourselves Cocos Creators right here. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger, and you can see here I have a 3D set, a 3D world. Of course, in my example, it's not in 3D, so I want to put it into 2D. So if you go right here, you can see I can click it to switch to 2D. And there we go, we have our 2D world. Next, let's go ahead and let's add 3 folders into our assets. We always do this to kind of get us prepared and to kind of keep us organized. So first I'm going to go ahead and put in scene, and this is where I'm going to put all my scene files. Right now we're only going to have one, but you know, when you're playing a lot of different games, you probably will have a main menu screen, and that'll be one scene. You'll have a menu screen for a scene, and you'll have a lot of other scenes. So it's good to kind of keep everything set up together in different scenes. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another folder, and this one I want to add script, because I want to put all my scripts in here. We only have one, but of course, just like I said with the scene, you could have multiple scripts. And of course, you could always have multiple folders inside multiple folders. So you could actually have all your scripts in different folders. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I don't need it. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a folder. And then I'm going to call this textures. And this is where I'm going to put all of my images. Luckily, we only have one image. But, you know, as we continue to work and test out your games, you'll probably have a ton of textures. So it's good to always have all these things all set up before you go ahead and start working on your game. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's get into our scene. And as you can see, I have nothing here. So what I need to do is I need to start adding some items into it. So because this is a 2D game, we have to add a canvas. All the games that are made in 2D have to have some kind of canvas that pushes everything onto it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my scene, and I'm going to go ahead and create a 2D object, or wait, no, I'm sorry, a UI component. I'm going to create a canvas. And as you see, I can call it canvas. I'm just going to name it canvas. And as you can see, there we go. We have ourselves a canvas. You can come back here, and right there it is. We have a problem, though. If you can look up here at the position, you see that it's 480 by 320. That's too small. We don't want to have that small of a game. We want to have it so that it fits the whole screen of a phone. And you know, most phones nowadays are at least 1080 by 720. There's probably other ones that are bigger or longer, but let's kind of keep it at a place where all the phones can have a good look at this. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and go, in the old days, of 2.0, you could actually change the project size here. But with 3.0, we've changed it. You actually have to go to your project and go to project settings. And when you go to the project settings, you'll see here there is a project data. And here you'll see the project width and height. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that to 1080. And I'm going to change this to 720. Okay. And there you go. And now we have it at 720 by 1080. See, I was wrong. It's not in the position. It's actually the content size. You can see here the content size. So that's my bad. But it's the same idea, 1080, 720. So now we actually have a very big, where the blue square is this is where all of the visible items are going to be on the camera. As you can see here, the camera is shooting out into this canvas. All right, let's go back to the canvas. So within the canvas, you can see here we also have a camera here as well, and you can see the camera is also only shooting at this size. So let's go back to the canvas. We're going to go ahead and in the canvas, I'm actually forgot one more thing. I want to double check in the project setting because we do this sometimes. Oh, I forgot. I have two things, a fit width and a fit height. And then the fit width, this tells you that I want the width to stay to change to the size of the game, so that the width is always going to change. The height, fit height, I can change that to have the height, but I don't want the height to be checked. I want the height to stay at 720, but I don't mind if the width is different. I mean, there's some phones that are in the 13, 20, and other sizes, so let's keep it at that. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's make a canvas layer. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. Make sure that the layer is at UI 2D. You can see here we have different layers, and only the UI 2D will be shown right now because we're in the 2D world. You can always call for the camera to look at different layers, but for me, let's keep it at UI 2D. It'll just make everything easier for me. Okay, let's add a sprite, because what I want to do is, as you can see, there's nothing here. So what I want to do is I'm going to add a component, and I'm going to add a sprite. As you can see here, I'm going to add a sprite. And if you look down here, we have a sprite. Now it's asking for some kind of material or an atlas or some kind of sprite frame. One of these is going to work to help it out. I don't have a sprite frame with me right here, but don't worry. If we go into the internals, we actually have a couple of default items that you can choose to help you set up your game. I want to look for one that I really like, which is the default _ sprite _ splash. And what this is this is just a little 2D, 2x2 sprite image, a little bit 2x2 dot. And why I like this is because I can go ahead and if I go back into the canvas and go into the sprite frame, I could drop this in and it will stretch itself to the full amount. That's awesome. Now, of course, it's white, which is a nice color, but I don't really want white. I want something different. So I'm going to go into the blues. And I'm going to go a little bit lighter. Let's go there, a little bit of a purple. Yeah, and there you go, I have it. You can also, if I like this color, I can add it as a preset. And there you go, I have a preset, but not really. And there we go, and there we go. We have ourselves a background. I know it's not the greatest, but you know, this is a demo and a tutorial, so don't worry too much. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and let's add a little window for the world. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first, before I do that, let's save this scene because it's always good to save while you're doing it. And as you can see here, it's already set up to my assets for my map view. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go into my scenes and I'm just going to call it map. I'm going to call it map control. Just because I like that word. Okay, map control. Okay, good. So we're going to go ahead and now that we have this, let's go ahead and we're going to add an empty canvas and an empty node. And what the empty node is going to do is we're going to change this to the map container. And this is the thing that's going to hold the map together. This is kind of going to be holding the map, but also is going to be the window to the map. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using it as a a mask. And if you know a lot of like audio and video, I mean, a lot of video development, masks are usually used to hide out things that you don't want everybody to see. And that's kind of what we're going to do here. Is we don't want people to see the entire map. We just want them to see what's in this kind of window of what we have, which is going to be in the map container. So I'm going to go ahead and now that I've got the map container here, you can see it's a little bit small, and I want it a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move the position of the Y to 52. And I'm going to change the content size. I don't want it to be 100 by 100. That's a little bit too small. You'll never see the map. So I'm going to go ahead and put it at 800 by 500. Okay, and there you go. And you can see here, this is where the map's going to be shown. And you can see we have a big border, but you know, this is a demo, and I want to give you guys the opportunity. Of course, if you want to change this, you can go ahead and change it to whatever you want. It's not a big issue for us, but we're going to go ahead and do that, and we've got that. Now we want to make it a mask so that it masks out everything. Luckily, we don't have to worry too much about how to do it. We can just go ahead and just add mask right here. And there we go, we have CC mask. Now, this is the interesting part. We have a lot of different masks. Now, right now we have a rectangle mask, meaning it'll just be a rectangular size. We could also put an ellipse. And if we have an ellipse, it would be a circle, which is pretty cool. We also have a graphic stencil. So for example, if you have an image stencil, which is a lot cooler. What you do is if you have another image, like a sprite frame of some kind of thing, like if you have a fog, you could add the sprite frame of the fog, and then it will go ahead and it will mask it out. So you could look like it's a very scary thing, and you won't be able to see all of what's going on in the world. That's pretty cool, but for us, we're just going to do rectangle. Okay, let's go ahead and let's go add a world map to the texture folder. So if we go back here, I'm going to go ahead and click this out and click back out, and there we go. I'm going to go ahead and I want to add a texture. I want to put something in this mask. Right now there's nothing, but like I said, we need to add something. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my file. I'm going to go to assets. I'm going to go to texture, and as you can see here, I already have one here. And what this is a world map that I got from Wikipedia. And you know, it's just a simple map. I mean, if you want to add your own different maps, go ahead. This is your project as much as mine, so go ahead and add whatever you think is going to work for you. But I'm going to definitely take this. I'm going to copy it from the final version, and I'm going to dump it into my version. And there we go. Okay. And the great thing is now that I've got that out, if I go here, you can see it's been added to the textures. Aha. Now, I want to add this, but before I do that, you can see here it's only a texture, and I don't need it as a texture. I need it actually as something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want a sprite frame, and I'm going to go say yes, save that. And what it does is it automatically made me a sprite frame version of the picture, which is perfect. And that's what we're going to need. Okay? So let me go ahead and let's see here. The next part is let's go ahead and let's add a node, a sprite node into the map container. I'm going to go add 2D. I want a sprite. And we're going to have the sprite node. And now it's asking for a picture to be put inside. And as you can see here, we have a sprite, we have a material, we have a sprite frame. There we go. That's what we want. So I don't want the default frame. I want that out. I want actually this guy. So I'm going to drag this guy in here. And there we go. We have our map. And as you can see, we've already masked out. You can see by the blue line, if I go back out, you can see there's a lot of parts in here that are not being shown. So that's awesome. We've already got pretty much all of the things that this demo needs. One thing that I want to actually add as well is I actually want to add a little note to tell us how much we've zoomed in and zoomed out, so that we can test it out and make sure that things are working correctly. So to do that, we're going to have to add a label. All right, and so what I'm going to do, and by the way, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go back into the canvas, and I'm going to create a UI. I'm going to add let's see here. I'm looking here, a label node. There we go, label, there it is. I'm going to add a label. And so this label, as you can see here, it's very small. We can actually zoom in, and there's the label. This is going to tell us the percentages. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I don't like the word label. So what I'm going to go back into label, and I'm actually going to change it to a string. I'm going to put it to 110% because that's how it's going to look when we finish it up. Okay, and so you can see here now it's 110%, and that's what it's going to start at. But you can change it later within the code. But we're going to put it 110%. I'm also going to increase the size because, as you can see, it's just way too small. So I'm going to change the size, but be careful because if you change the font size, like I'm going to change it to 60, but I have the line height at 40, I can even drop it to 20. You can see it's not going to show everything. So make sure you have at least a little bit extra line size for this. And I'm also going to drag it right there. You can also change the font family if you want to change it to a different font. Just be careful which font you use, or you can also always add your own different types of fonts in here. If you have any kind of special fonts that you want to add. We won't talk about that now. So if you want to do that, please check out our documentation. And in fact, if you do want to look at our documentation, you can always click on these help documents and they will take you directly to our website and will give you all the information about what this does, what these different components do. And you can learn a little bit more about what each of these parts are. Okay? So there we go. We have ourselves the look. Perfect. So it looks exactly just like our demo. But the problem is that we need to actually code it. So let's go ahead and let's go back into the final project. I'm going to go into the assets and I'm going to the scripts. And I only have one script. And for some reason, my computer thinks it's a VLC thing, but it's actually not. It's a TS file, a TypeScript file. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it into our assets folder. And I'm going to put scripts and I'm going to paste it in. And there we go. As you can see, it says a TS file. So I'm going to, anyway, I'll change that later. Don't worry about that. And so anyway, you can see here I have it as a map. And you can see here I have all the information right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this TypeScript file to the map controls. Let me see here. Where do I have the map container, the canvas? I'm going to put it back in the canvas, which I believe I'm going to actually change. Yeah, I'm going to change this to map control because I should, like all good people, you should be naming all of your items, even though half of this I haven't. Anyway, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add map control into here. And as you can see here, I have map control. And you can see here there are a lot of different parts to it. And you probably are wondering, like, what do these things do? And I'll show you guys in a moment. But first, we need the map. And so the map is this sprite. So I'm going to dump it into here. A scale time is a label. It needs a label to tell you what the scaling is. And so that's here. And it should, if I go ahead and I drag this in, come on, there we go, drag it in. We should be able to, if I save this, save scene, I should be able to play it on a device and it opens up and it should run. It doesn't run. Here's the problem I totally forgot about. What I forgot to do is I actually forgot to change the sprite. It's in the UI, but the map container is in a default. So I need to change this back to a UI too. And it's asked me if all the children want to be that. Yes, they do. And now if we try it again, there it is. And it's working perfectly. I can scroll in and I can scroll out, scroll in, go to the edge, but cannot move. And I go all the way to the bottom, cannot move it. So you can see here, we got it all set up. So there we go. We have our cool little demo all set up. Now, the question, of course, is how do you do the coding? Because, I mean, that's where we're going to have the biggest problem. So let's go back into the map control and let's check it out by opening up Visual Studio Code. So I'm in Visual Studio Code. And in Visual Studio Code, I've got here a couple of items. First, I have the import. And here I've imported a lot of different parts to it. Each of these parts are necessary to make this work. For example, we have like label, because we have a label already there, and we have nodes, so I definitely node. So all of these things are things that you're going to need to add if you're going to be building it yourself. And if you want to learn more, you can always look in our documentation. Next, we want to tell them that we want a CC class, which is where all the information is going to be in. And this is where the map control for the component is. Every component in Cocos Creator needs to be in a CC class. And this one's called map control. And it is a class that extends as a component. So what we do is we have first these properties. And these properties are kind of tell us a little bit about this node, like the things that you can do within this component. As you can see here, we have things like a label, we have a default scaling, we have min scale, and you'll probably see that these are very similar to what you see in this. As you can see here, if I go back to the map control, you can see here we have our script, our map, a scale time, default, min scale, max scale. You can actually see all of those things. All those things are right here. Max scale, min scale, default scaling. I mean, they're all here. So what this is trying to do is this is trying to tell us that these are things that I want as a property to change that I could change within Cocos Creator. And so that's great. That tells us that I can change the properties with the defaults. And you can change the defaults to what they were originally. So this is what they begin at. But then if you want to, you can actually go into Cocos Creator and actually change all of these. So for example, if I don't like the rate, I want it to be a little bit faster. I think if I go to 5,000, I can go ahead and save that, and it should be a little bit faster to scale in and out. Yeah, you can see it's really, really fast to scale in and out because I was able to increase the rate of speed. So you can see here I can do that in even the, so if for example you can go ahead and set these all up for what you originally think, but then you can tweak it within Cocos Creator to make it work. And then if you want to, you can always go back into the code and change it back to whatever you want. So this makes it for a lot of really good editing. Anyway, other than that, we also have 3 different variables, which we have locked, is it moving, and is this a single touch? And these are all to help us kind of understand the movement of our mouse, or if we're on a phone, our finger. All right? Great. Now we're going to go ahead and we'll get into start. And with every component that we have, we always have a start. This kind of tells us, okay, what are the things we need to do when we start this component? Sometimes you'll probably have nothing. But in this one, we have 2 different things. We want them to start the add event. And what the add event does is that it calls for all the different event calls. So it says to check for mouse drags or finger drags or scroll wheel zoom. And then there's the smooth operate. And the smooth operate is to kind of help us with the zooming. So these kind of help us out to understand how can we zoom, what are these actions happening. Okay? Now we go ahead and if we go into the code, you'll see that we have a lot of different functions. The first one is the can't start move, and the can't start move is kind of tells us if some devices are too sensitive for a single point. So this is kind of help us to know that this is to kind of make sure the sensitivity isn't too high. And so this kind of helps us to know, okay, if it's too high, don't do anything. But if it's not high, then start working. Okay, and you can go ahead and check that one out. Next one is add event, and the add event function is all the event calls. So for example, this one is about, so you can see here we have multi-touch, we have single touch, we also have if it is touched, what to do when it ends, what to do when the touch is canceled, and also we have something like the mouse wheel, like if we're using the mouse wheel, what to do. And the mouse wheel, of course, is to zoom in and out, the same as if you did a double touch with your phone. Okay, great. Next, we have the function smooth operate. And the smooth operate is just the zooming up. And this kind of does all of the information about the zooming. Next up is the deal scale pause. And this ensures that the map, when the map is scaled, the entire map remains filled within the screen so that you can't shrink, zoom out so far that the map disappears. And it kind of keeps the boundaries. Without the map edges extended beyond the interior of their secondary screen boundary, the position of the map nodes is therefore dynamically updated according to the screen boundaries. That was what one of my developer friends told me, and I'm going to believe him. Finally, we have deal move, and the deal move is the method of moves the map in response to an event. So if it's a single finger, move it. If it's a double finger, go ahead and zoom in. This tells us what to do, and deal select delivers the mouse location when we click the mouse, And finally, we have the calculate edge. And the calculate edge tells us like where are we on the edge. And if we're on the edge of the map or of the sprite, for example, then don't move any further. So I can't go further left, I can't go further right, I can't go any more top, and I can't go more bottom. And of course, we also have a lot more information here. If you want to know more, I definitely would love you to go ahead and look into this code. I mean, this code is only about 218 lines, less than 218 lines, so it's not going to be a very difficult read. And you'll get a lot of information about how mouse clicks and other events work, as well as understanding how to move things around and zoom ins and zoom outs, which is pretty much what we want to do with this tutorial. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you had a fun time listening to me for these last few minutes. If you have any questions, go ahead and write them in the comments section below, and we'd love to answer them. We'll also, like I said, we'll have the full tutorial for you available in the description, so go ahead and check it out. And if you like this, go ahead and give it a like, and please subscribe. It really helps us out. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and go out there and go code.